Now, before I go into the reason why it didn't outperform, let's just take a quick step at what I think the weaknesses are in the GCC economy. I think one of the main acute weaknesses, and it's something that's not talked about that much, is a shortage of human talent. It's a shortage of management capabilities, and that extends from the private sector to the public sector. People get surprised sometimes when you come into a government ministry and you see this beautiful building, and you assume that it's going to be populated with a huge body of talent. But there isn't that much talent. I mean, in Ras Mallah today, we're going around looking for a PhD in economics who has a good command of the Arabic language, and we're searching the whole region, we can't find one. So governments, and we're the private sector, so the economic infrastructure of the region, first of all in terms of policy making, whether it's the central banks or whether the ministries of finance or the Ministry of Economy, really don't have a huge body of talent compared to any relatively advanced economy, or even countries like Pakistan and India and many other third world countries. So I think many people sometimes get surprised by the quality of policy making and wonder how some decisions get made, and they try to find complicated reasons to explain that. And actually, in some cases, it's really it's a very simple answer, is that the talent is not there. Because a smart minister by himself cannot commit miracles. He needs a body of people, think tanks, policy-making staff, people to generate ideas, people to collect data. And without that, in many cases, he's flying blind. So in the region, we suffer from that talent, and we don't recognize it. What tells me that really we don't recognize it is that one of the things that have happened in the last 3-4 years in the Gulf is that there's been this obsession with setting up new entities, whether it's new companies or new government ministries or departments, instead of, in fact, reducing the number of entities and recognizing that we have limited human talent, so that in a way we spread that human talent over fewer entities, we're mass producing companies and entities. So sometimes I joke and I say that the people who are making the money are the sort of PR firms that create logos and brands, because every day you have a new company coming up with a logo and brand. But in terms of the human talent that you need, you don't have that. I was visiting Infosys a few years ago in India, and I went around the campus with one of their executives, and I said, and he said, we hire 10,000 engineers a year. I said, 10,000 engineers a year? Where do you get 10,000 engineers a year? He said, we get 1 million applicants, qualified applicants. Yeah, and you can't find 500 engineers today if you wanted to find them in the region. So this acute shortage of human talent is something we face and we suffer from, and the solution to it is a long-term solution. In the interim, we should recognize it and build our structures accordingly. Another weakness is obviously the underdeveloped legal infrastructure. And what that does is it increases the risk premium, particularly for banks. One of the big engines of economic development are banks, and yet banks are very, very reluctant to lend in this region because the legal infrastructure is underdeveloped, and the chances of quick recovery of your money if you have a dispute are not very high. And the third and the most relevant weakness, particularly in this time, is weak transparency. In the last few years, we've picked up a lot of buzzwords in the region. Governance, hawkama, sort of sustainable development, tanmiya, mustadama, and obviously transparency. We've picked up the buzzwords, but we don't understand what they mean. So we have conferences, we have banners, and we talk the talk, but we don't walk the talk. And the problem with weak transparency is that the full negative implications of that are not understood. One of the things, for example, that the government leadership can benefit from is having multiple sources of information. So if you are at the top of a government infrastructure, in our part of the world, you have only one source of information, and that is your bureaucracy. So your bureaucracy is the only entity that will inform you of what is going on. In other countries that have more transparency, you have multiple sources of information. You have the media, you have academia, you have analysts. So actually, you have a check and balance. Information comes more quickly to you as a policymaker than it does in our part of the world. And one of the reasons why we are slow to react in many cases, and we see that even in Dubai, is that because of that unitary source of information. So I think, the full negative implications of weak transparency, and I will elaborate a bit more of that on the next slide.